traveling to South Carolina today. I always think it's a good idea to book my flights early in the morning, but then the day comes and I'm always like, what was I thinking? Take care. So today's a travel vlog. We're covering Acts chapter 17. This must kind of be like what Paul felt like, minus the whole American Airlines flight thing.
Yep. Exit row's okay, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're located in the seat pocket and let's flight.
Thank you. Now we gotta go connect on a flight for Charlotte. We made it to Charlotte. I think I'm in Charlotte. I'm in North Carolina somewhere. Gotta go meet my ride. Hey!
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good to see you, man.
You too. Well, I made it. This is the Bible vlog. Acts 17 starts off with Paul and Silas going into the meeting place for the Jews in Thessalonica. Now, Thessalonica is actually a really old city that you can actually still visit today, but now it's called Thessalonica in Greece. Actually, lovely place this time of year. Try their pastries. So for the next 3 Sabbaths, Paul actually walks them through the scriptures, showing them that Jesus was the Messiah. And as always happens in these situations, some people believe and other people get mad. Now, the people who don't believe Paul always end up using the same trick to stir up an angry crowd. They claim that Paul is teaching that Jesus is king and not Caesar, which is technically kind of true, but misrepresented. To put this in perspective, imagine going to a class of kindergartners and telling them that someone is preaching that there is no Santa Claus. It's not going to end well for you. So sure enough, a mob forms and they go to a guy named Jason's house, which is actually where Paul and Silas had been staying, but they're not there. So the crowd drags Jason out and they accuse him of harboring people who have, in their words, turned the world upside down. Now, when people are accusing you of that, you can be pretty sure that you're making a difference. So Jason gets let go after paying a fine, and they send Paul and Silas to a place called Berea. You know, I know the Bible refers to Paul's travel as his missionary journeys, but sometimes I swear that half of his travel was just a dude fleeing for his life. Now, Berea was cool. In verse 11, it describes these people as fair-minded and that they received Bible teaching readily, and most important, that they daily examined the scriptures to see if what Paul was teaching was actually true. So obviously, lots of people come to Christ in Berea because what Paul was teaching was true, but the Jews from Thessalonica come down to Berea as well, and they force Paul to travel to Athens. Now, while Paul is in Athens, his preaching actually gets him brought to the Areopagus. This place was basically a huge public forum for debate. So Paul gets up, he's ready to speak to all these people, and he talks about how he sees that they are very religious. He always starts off paying a compliment. He says that he even noticed an altar with the inscription to an unknown God. Now, he uses this incredibly well as his intro to talk about Jesus. In verse 23, Paul says, "Therefore, the one whom you worship without knowing him, I now proclaim to you." Smooth, Paul. Smooth. You know, I think one of the things I admire the most about the Apostle Paul is that no matter what situation he found himself in, he would always find a way to share Jesus. If it meant going into a synagogue, if it meant going into a public forum, if it meant using an idol to an unknown God, he always found a way to weave Jesus into the conversation, and this is what made him so amazing. This is why most of his writings are the New Testament. It's because he was constantly proclaiming that Jesus is the only way to God. Guys, that is it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Today was a little bit harder because obviously it was a big day of travel for me, but listen, come back tomorrow. We are going to pick it up in Acts chapter 18, just like always. It's going to be a busy week, but it's going to be a fun week. I will see you back here tomorrow. I am going to bed.